Hi, this is Mrs. Hurst, and I'd like you to join me for a story time about Pete the Cat when he checks out the library. I've been granted temporary permission from HarperCollins to read this book that was authored and illustrated by James Dean. I also uploaded a tour of the library so that you can see what ours looks like, because Pete goes on a tour of the public library in this book. Pete's mom is taking him to the library for the first time. The librarian gives Pete his own library card. "Cool," says Pete. The librarian smiles and says, "Let's take the tour." She takes Pete through the library. There's a big desk where people wait to check out their books. He also sees his friends reading at a long table. It's very peaceful and quiet. "How relaxing," said Pete. The librarian takes Pete to her favorite room. There are lots of Pete-sized chairs and tables and shelves. There are books everywhere in every shape and color. Oh my goodness! This area reminds me of the Alex Kennedy Library because we have some trees on our wall just like this one. "What do I do now?" Pete asks. "Well, now you read a book," the librarian said. "Which book should I read?" asked Pete. "You can read any book you like," says the librarian. He looks around. There are so many books. And if you see our library, that's the same thing. We have so many books. There's something for everyone. Pete picks up a book all about airplanes and jets. Soar! There's a rocket blasting up into the sky. He reads it and pretends he's a stunt pilot. He flies a super fast jet and does a loop-de-loop and spirals high in the sky. Oh goodness, there's Pete upside down. Then Pete found a book with a dragon, wizards, and a unicorn on the cover. Wow. He reads it and imagines he's a powerful wizard using magic spells and a special wand to defend his castle against a fire-breathing dragon. Wow, that's definitely a fiction book. I love fiction books because you can use your imagination to be anything you want. Next, Pete picked up a book about spiders and insects. He reads it and imagines that he's a scientist studying all types of critters in the wild. I think he must have gotten that book from the non-fiction area. It's got true information about bugs in it. He has to be very still to study some critters. Some are faster than others. I bet that butterfly is hard to catch. Then Pete chooses a book with all sorts of scary monsters on the cover. It's a book of fairy tales. Wow! I love fairy tales. I wonder what this one is. Pete's got a little Red Riding Hood on it. Oh, and that big bad wolf is so big. Poor Pete. I hope he gets away. Little Pete Riding Hood. Pete opened a book about the pyramids in Egypt. He read it and pretended he was an explorer riding a camel across the desert. Wow, way to use your imagination, Pete. Next, he picked up a book with all sorts of robots on the cover. He read